Evil Dead is back and bloodier than ever. The classic horror franchise adds a new chapter, the previous iteration being the Evil Dead Remake in 2013, directed by Fede Alvarez. While that film was a fantastic horror remake, this new film is a true reimagining, moving the Deadites from the cabin in the woods to a rundown apartment building in Los Angeles, which, if I'm being honest, makes the cabin look like a nice little cottage, albeit with a few decapitated singing heads.
This evil creates terror through total chaos.
After a cold open with one of the better title reveals that I've seen in a while, we begin to follow Beth, played by Lily Sullivan. After some personal news, Beth decides to visit her sister, Ellie, played brilliantly by Alyssa Sutherland, no relation to Donald or Kiefer, and her 3 kids. Alyssa has a lot to do in this film, as she's possessed pretty much the entire film. I don't know if she did her own stunts, but from what I've seen, she has a lot to do in this film, from stunt choreography to her actual acting. She goes from normal to a gentle creepiness to aggressively antagonistic demonic, sometimes within a few seconds. It's a wonderful horror performance made even better through top-notch makeup work and stunt coordination.
Mummy's with the maggots now.
Ellie herself is a pretty unremarkable character, which makes the ultimate possession less heartbreaking, and characterization is a theme throughout this review that you'll see. So, that makes for a fun horror movie, but when I think about this moment in Evil Dead, scenes like this in Rise just don't really work. They try to set up her relationship with Beth, played by Lily Sullivan, like I said, and the 3 kids, but the hour-and-a-half runtime really keeps me from enjoying any of the characters. The limited runtime really could have been expanded a little more, but the actors do a good enough job to bring their characters some life, but the characterizations are generally pretty poor. The movie seems to skip much of the character moments in favor of getting as many blood and guts on the screen as possible, and hey, I can't exactly fault them. The 3 kids themselves are good too. Nell Fisher as Cassie was great in this, although I was kind of distracted the whole time when I watched her, thinking, why does her accent seem weird? And it turns out she's actually from London, which makes a lot of sense. But yeah, she bounces off of Lily Sullivan's character really well. I felt the bond between them and the rest of the siblings. I just hope she had a great time doing this movie, because oh my God, is there a lot of blood and gore that happens in front of her. I hope she doesn't need therapy in the future. The other 2 siblings are Danny, played by Morgan Davies, and Bridget, played by Gabrielle Eccles. One of the things I love about Morgan's performance is that Danny is more or less easy to hate because of what he does in the movie. Danny is the idiot that starts everything off, so you can immediately want this kid dead. But Morgan imbues this character with enough sympathy and likability that you can see this character knows he made a mistake and is now doomed to feel the wrath of a Deadite. So it was a very interesting performance that was elevated because of the lack of character. Gabrielle's performance as Bridget is one of the victims of the script being thin on characterization. There isn't much to really focus on when it comes to her character, and the result kind of gets mostly forgotten. She does one great scene involving glass that showed she got the chops, but again, unfortunately, she's mostly forgettable, and that's mainly because of the script. The character building is also what brings me to the setting. The cabin is ditched for a high-rise apartment building, and while I didn't necessarily miss the cabin that much, I will say that I wish the building had more character. The original unassuming yet creepy cabin in the woods is iconic for a reason, with memorable characteristics like the basement door swinging open and the chain hooks to lock it closed. The dense forest surrounding the horrors. I never felt that they utilized the location change to its advantage, aside from plot convenience. It's kind of a regular old broken down high-rise that I've seen in countless other horror movies. There were shots that were paying homage to other movies, and that was less of what made it memorable in those other movies rather than this one. I think they could have done a lot more with this location. This is making me wonder why the location change at all. You know, with an Evil Dead movie, there must be blood, and more blood. Well, safe to say there's blood. There's elevators full of it, body parts being dismembered, and sadistic humor. Humor that never really reaches the height of Evil Dead 2, but also never reaches the lows of Army of Darkness. Truth be told, as much as I do love Evil Dead 2 for all its fiendish horror comedy, I fall more in the camp of loving the first Evil Dead more for its straight to the point brutality and darkness. I always felt the comedy in 2 took away from the horror aspect that I fell in love with when it came to the first one. Then came Army of Darkness, which for many years as a kid, I didn't even know it was an Evil Dead movie. Although that's my dumbassery. What was I saying? Back to the point. Evil Dead Rise's comedy is there, but it's more gritty and subtle than these movies have been in the past. So while I do like the comedy being toned down, unfortunately what I didn't like is that I think the brutal nature of the gore took a step back, even compared to the 2013 film. I vividly remember squirming in my seat as Olivia carved her face. Ugh. Hell, go back even to the first one. That image of the pencil going into her foot stayed with me ever since I saw it. This movie certainly has the blood of an Evil Dead movie, but that brutality, that darkness, that almost mean-spiritedness of the others in the series is a bit lacking for my taste. There are certainly some great kills, but some of the ones that I actually really liked get cut away from fairly quickly. Again, this is more of my personal taste in gore that I've seen done in better movies in this series. So I've actually listened back to what I've just said in this review, and so far it would lead you to think that I didn't like this movie. The characters were thin, the setting was alright, but didn't really justify its change that much, and the violence itself was fantastic, but lacking for me in certain ways when it comes to Evil Dead. All those were true, but that's just because in my head while watching it, I kept thinking back to the originals and the 2013 remake. I genuinely love those movies, and unfortunately, Evil Dead Rise never rises to the heights of those movies. But it's not a bad movie. Like I said, I liked enough of what the characters were doing, and that's mainly because of the actors. The blood and violence is better than some of the horror movies I've seen recently. And I mean, this is still an Evil Dead movie after all, so I think even fans will still get enough of what they want. The practical and visual effects work seamlessly together to give us a bloody good time. The actors bring such a joy and presence that it elevates what was lacking. So I recommend it, especially for a Halloween viewing with friends. Evil Dead Rise is a good addition to the Evil Dead franchise, and while it may not be my favorite Evil Dead movie by any means, I think it does enough to secure itself in the series and earn the Evil Dead title. Yeah, so let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure to rate, comment, and subscribe. You could also follow me on Twitter at Kangaroo Plat. Have a good one.